Hello, faithful, and welcome to a new episode here of Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio here on YouTube. I am your host, Keven Crothers, station manager for Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio and staff writer for Heaven's Metal Magazine. Yes, it has been quite a while, probably almost 2 months since I've put out a new video, and things just get going, and it takes a lot of time to put these things together. And I really hope you enjoy this one today. This is a part 2 of 10 of my favorite guitar players, okay? Frankly, and just straight out, 10 of my favorites. Some people will go, but what about? Well, I did make a first edition of this, or a part 1. And I have enough players after this, so it could be a part 3. But we'll call this a part 2, and there are 10 guitarists. They are not in any particular order. Frankly, they all have different styles. They all play different types of music. Yes, there's a couple guitar players on here, one in particular that you go, they're not heavy metal. They're not metal at all. Absolutely, they're not. I said guitar players, right? Listen. So, quickly, just a little bit of housekeeping type stuff. I hope you subscribe to the channel, click the like button, give us a comment. Who are your 10 favorite guitar players? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody has a favorite. Everybody has their own preference as far as musical style and all that kind of great stuff. So there you go. But starting off with number 1 on this list, which I guess you'd say is number 10, Brian Ballou, Barnabas. Now, if you're not familiar with Barnabas, one of the original first 4, you could say, hard rock heavy metal bands from a Christian point of view. He came in on their 3rd album, I believe it was, or 4th record, Approaching Light Speed, Feel the Fire, and then Little Fox is just absolutely a brilliant guitar player, more traditional, lots of hammers and pull-offs and just crazy playing all the way around. A lot of attack, a lot of aggression, just a fantastic player that honestly, I don't know what happened to him. I don't. I know Chris Klingensmith is on Facebook. Chris, I hope I said your name correctly. I know that Nancy Jo Mann at times is on Facebook. Brian, I have no idea. Don't know what happened. Don't know where he is. Don't know anything. But I do know this. In Christian hard rock and metal, he is one of my favorite players. Moving on to number 2, or number 9 on this list. And I do have a list here this time, guys. Larry Dean, Triton. Larry Dean from Triton, prog, to me, he says Rick Emmett of Triumph is a huge influence, and I hear more jazz, Alan Holdsworth, a lot more just experimentation, and just a very aggressive, not a completely melodic style, but something that ultimately, coupled with his high octane voice, just amazing. Larry Dean from Triton, one of my favorites. Moving on. George Ochoa, Recon, Worldview, Human Code, Deliverance. Now, when George isn't dropping bombs on the Facebook faithful and just trying to blow everybody apart, I guess. I don't know, George. Don't know exactly what communication. Anyway, a fantastic guitar player. Multitude of styles. Obviously, when he was in Deliverance, it was more this thrash metal type thing. And then Recon, which was more almost proggy and neoclassical, something like neoclassical. Yeah, a little bit of that. Queensryche-esque. And then Worldview, which definitely has a more prog, a melodic element, but there's still all this fire. And we're still waiting for more Human Code material to come forth, but the Worldview record is fabulous. George Ochoa. Gotta love him. Coming in now, number 4 on the list, or number, 10, 9, 8, number 7, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Tony Palacios, Guardian. Tony is another guitar player. I know he's still active, but he's not doing, at least from what I can determine, he's not doing, Christian hard rock stuff or metal stuff with a Christian point of view. A great player, very melodic, kind of, got like a Satriani, Van Halen, Steve Vai type vibe. I've always thought Tony was a fantastic player. I remember seeing them in Guardian when they had the armor, And this was before they were signed. And man, there was just amazing stuff, And then once they got signed, and they got signed to Enigma and then over to Myrrh, still a great player. Even when the band changed, Tony changed, but I still prefer the earlier stuff, but just an absolutely fantastic, world-class guitar player, Tony Palacios. Coming in now, following that, Paul Jackson, Bloodgood. Now, Paul Jackson had some shoes to fill in Bloodgood following the departure of David Safiro. Loved David. He was on our first video. And Paul is in this one. And it's not where one is better than the other. Don't misunderstand that. I just had 10 I picked for that and 10 I picked for this. And I love Paul's playing. Again, melodic, but then can shred with the best of them. And, kind of, a great technique, Shanker-esque, as it were, coupled with the fire, of an Eddie Van Halen. All of these guys have made their own style. Everybody has an influence. And just a fantastic player. Paul Jackson comes in there. Now, let's get a little heavier. Glenn Rogers, Deliverance. Now, Glenn has been in Deliverance. He's been in Hyrax. He's been in Steel Vengeance. He's been in Heretic. He has done so much stuff. I'll just say it right now. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the Fractured Brain podcast, Jimmy Brown of Deliverance interviews Glenn Rogers. And you listen to Glenn just discuss his career. It's amazing. And I've always liked his playing. A lot of aggression, a lot of attack, melodic, but can rip it up. A great riff writer. Just a great riff writer. It's just so much stuff. He wrote this, tracks for Vengeance Rising. He wrote tracks for Deliverance. He was in Hero, which was Robbie Braun's, the original singer for Holy Soldier, his briefly led band. Just a great player all the way around. Glenn Rogers comes in. So now we're getting into, I don't want to say my top four in this one, but we'll say the final four. And this one here, this is the non-metal, completely out of the box. All right? Well, maybe not out of the box, but because he is a master of the guitar. And that is Phil Keaggy, period. unless you have absolutely no idea about Christian music, and I'll say this, a lot of musicians don't. They have no idea because they're not listening to Christian music. They're listening to where the guys are playing and pushing the boundaries of stuff. Phil Keaggy was in a group called Glass Harp way back in the late 60s, early 70s. Became a Christian, ended up signing to a Christian record label back in the mid 70s. But his playing is absolutely amazing. He can do it on acoustic. He can do it on electric. A great songwriter, a great vocalist, and just can do a lot with very, very little. It may sound easy, but it's not. Phil Keaggy really is a master on the guitar and definitely deserves to be on this list. Got to have the old school represented in this one as well. Dana Key was in the first video, so this seems appropriate. Coming up next, and we're down to the final three, here's one you've probably not heard of before, and that is Dave Beagle, and that is Fourth Estate. Now, Dave had done, 3 albums with Fourth Estate, all instrumental, and what I appreciated about his, and did other albums after Fourth Estate, but what I appreciated about it is that the songs all seemed to move. It wasn't like this long 5-minute, how many arpeggios can I throw in? The guitar plays the melody. It shreds. Don't get me wrong. There's great fiery playing, highly melodic, extremely aggressive at times. But the guitar moves the music along in structure and in influence. Just a fantastic player. All of these guys, I've seen a lot of these players live. Saw Phil Keaggy once. Saw Glenn Rogers once, maybe twice. Saw Paul Jackson many times, Palacios many times. I saw George once with Deliverance at Cornerstone, I believe. Larry Dean, I've never seen. Brian Ballou, I've never seen. David Beagle, I've never seen. I saw Keaggy once. But David Beagle, I wish I could. Just to be in the same room and watch these guys play. Just absolutely genius players. And if you are a Christian musician and you don't know about these guys, I'm telling you that these are players that you want to hear. You may not like the music, but their playing is world class. All right, moving on. Coming in, I got 2 left. Here's one. He sings and he shreds. Ken Tamplin, Shout. Ken Tamplin these days is probably more known for his vocal academy that he's done and advertised, over the last 10 plus years. But a lot of us know him as the lead guitar player and vocalist for Christian melodic pop metal, hair metal band Shout, and then his own solo career in the 90s. He's a great player, a great songwriter. He does have that David Coverdale kind of voice, and I've got to see them play once at Cornerstone. Fantastic stuff, and all of their stuff. I enjoy all of their music, and it's just quite good. Ken Tamplin, great player. Okay, coming in at number 1 or number 10 or however you want to do this, and some of you are going to say, well, you didn't talk about Troy Thompson, and you didn't talk about Oz Fox, and you didn't go watch the first video, okay? Don't complain about what's not in this one if you haven't seen the first one. So I will try to put a link to the first one in the comments in the section below. Alrighty. So I got kind of reamed out a little. Not really. I got called out, let's say, when I posted like 10 of my favorite players, and it was pointed out to me that I didn't have this guy on my list. And it seems kind of strange that I wouldn't, because for 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, I was his on-stage roadie. For what that's worth, I set his stuff up. I took it down. I made sure the guitars were shiny good, and or whatever. Everything was plugged in, and there was a period of time where he had the boost, and I'd hit the boost for him when he would play his solo, and then when it was not the solo, we'd take the boost out. If you're a player, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm talking about Rick Hunter from Soldier and Walk the Sky. Check it out. I saw Soldier the first time in 1986 at the Mabuhay Gardens and was absolutely floored when I saw Rick play. I've always been a guitar nerd, and, we are still friends. This is 35 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is. Great player, great guy. And really, he's one of these guys. There's a lot of these players who should have gotten more, I will say, should have gotten more recognition back in the day. And all of these guys really should have. So if you're a guitar player, I encourage you, and you're looking for players to listen and see what they're doing, check it out. All of these guys, Rick's material, Soldier, Walk the Sky. You can get, they're both available on CD. The Soldier stuff is a little more difficult to come by these days, and I think Walk the Sky is as well. But fantastic material, all of it. So, hey, I hope you give me your top 10 guitar players in the comments below. Who are your favorites? And at the same time, I hope you give me a like and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to check out Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Heavy metal, hard rock from a Christian point of view, all the time, Available in the US, Canada, and England. I'm sorry. I wish it was available in South America, south of the border, in Australia, and throughout Europe. I suppose you could try a VPN, and that's all I'll say about that. But anyway, we're on the Live 365 platform, Heaven's Metal Streaming Radio. We get anywhere between 500 and 1,000 listeners a month, and really, really appreciate all the support, guys. I hope to get another video out, not in 2 months' time, but sometime a bit sooner. I hope you enjoy this one, and don't forget to say your prayers, and until next time, God bless.